industry professionals. My name is Caroline Whitehead, and let me just give you a bit of background for Access Creative College. So Access Creative College started in 1992, you can believe it. It has got 7 campuses around the UK. We have Birmingham, London, Manchester, Norwich, Bristol, Lincoln and York. And it's an industry specialised, focused, popular music creative college. So in relation to Manchester, which is where we're broadcasting from now, we have a team at the studio on campus. We have 2 other team members at home, and I'm actually broadcasting from home with some industry guests, which I'll introduce later. So in the late 1970s, punks, new waves, new romantics made their way down to Rafters venue to listen to breaking bands such as Joy Division, Depeche Mode and The Fall. The site was chosen as a location in the cult film 24 Hour People, which chronicled the Manchester scene headed by Tony Wilson, while later the venue became Jilly's Rock World. Fast forward to 2017 and the site is now an amazing music education facility, complete with performance, theatre and rehearsal rooms. Down the road, just on the edge of the Manchester Metropolitan University All Saints campus, is a converted mill, and that is where our dedicated Games Media Centre is. So I'm going to share my screen. Technical, just bear with me. I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to play you a brief video. It's coming. Here it is. Can I have a thumbs up from the team? Can you see the screen? Excellent.
Have you ever been down? Have you ever been high? I think you better stay in the light of the moon, 'cause they're coming and they're gonna find you soon. Hey, you girl in the dirty grey jeans.
The facilities here at ATM are amazing. It's got a brand new studio, it's been built, full kitted out library, all the latest software you can imagine, from Pro Tools to Logic.
We train the vocal artists to be working musicians, so where they can go out, earn money from their talent, have fun. By meeting some of the teachers, obviously they've got a lot of background, so you meet them and get to know everything what they've done, so it gives you ambition to go and be like them. You do get on them as friends, you do want to respect them, you do look up to them, and being surrounded by people that have the same ambitions just pushes you forward to want to do the same.
For was involved in our Christmas showcase. We had to put a show with all the other vocal artists at Christmas, and we just had our family and all that there.
I'm able to communicate a lot more with my peers. We have a good relationship and we're all with each other, and any developments that we need to do, we help each other with it. It's a teamwork thing.
Manchester is such an amazing place and the music scene is absolutely fantastic. So you've got open mic nights like pretty much every single day of the week wherever you go.
Being able to write music with other people has helped me progress musically.
It's helped me a lot with my own recordings. The confidence it's given me to actually put music out there, which I've been approached by DJs wanting to remix my stuff, been asked to do gigs, I've been representing Manchester with Special Talent, which I wouldn't have that confidence if I didn't come to a place like this.
The future of the music industry, this is where the budding new artists, new producers, new record company executives are born and bred.
Excellent. Right. So what that does is basically show that the foundation for Access Creative College is music. and not Ed Sheeran. Just bear with me a second. That's a nice segue, actually, because Ed Sheeran is our patron. So he came to Access Creative College. He came to the Norwich and I think Lincoln site as well. And we have alumni like Jess Glynn, Rita Ora, quite a lot of other people as well. So it's just a fantastic baseline to actually come to the college. So, of course, we've got the music, we've got the media, we've got games, events and computing. But this is specifically about events. And we're based at that campus you saw in the film, at the Oxford Street campus in Manchester. And like I said, the games and the media is at Hume Street next to the MMU campus. So my name's Carol-Ann Whitehead, and I am the Marketing, Business and Events lecturer here at the college. I also have my own business, and I've had my own agency for 20 years now. The Zebra Partnership looks at publishing, events and campaigns, marketing and PR, but a lot of contacts in the industry, and that bodes well when we're actually doing any projects or any work to connect and bring people in from the industry. And some of them are here today. Thanks for coming, and I'll be introducing them later. But first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course and what to expect. So the events department is split into two. There's event production and studio and live sound, and it's BTEC level 3. And we look at business, marketing and event management, which is marketing techniques, event careers, events industry, events management, production, and then with the technical stage operations, live sound for the stage lighting, operations and visual imagery in events. There are a lot of things other than that as well. I also teach PPD, which is personal and professional development, and that's really great to interact with the other students that are not in the events cohort, so the vocal artist, games and the media students. And the personal and professional development looks at sort of things from what's happening outside in the world, but also in the industry and the research, and how to actually manage themselves going into the pathway of work or higher education. So the course level, so we have the starter, which is level 1 diploma, and what's required, because most of you watching now, you're waiting for your GCSE results, and this is what we expect. From grade 1 to 3, you'd be going in at level 1. There's the intermediate, grades 4 to 9, and level 3 extended diploma, which is equivalent to 3 A levels and up to 168 UCAS points. And of course, with some of the other ones, we have the higher and the higher education for the first year, second year and third year degree. But going back to number 3, that's what the event production starts with. If, for example, you get your results and they're not what you expect, please contact us and we can have a conversation with you. And we do have a maths and English department as well, if you need to bring your maths and English up to scratch and work towards resitting in November. And what I want to say right from the beginning is we have careers and employability logs. What are those? Those are actually any bit of work that you do, you put that information down. We have actual logs online. Everyone has an account with Compass, which is like our intranet and our internal search engine. And people put their employability on there. So it could be anything like doing some research for a marketing company that's possibly doing an event, or actually working hands-on at an event, or something that I've organised whereby you go out and support a theatre, or you support an event consultant, or go into one of our corporate contacts and work with them. So you put that in there. And we have key things like industry weeks, which is really, really useful for you going forward. And then, of course, when you put your log, you don't just put like one line. You have to put an assessment of what you've done, what skills you feel you've developed, and what did you learn when you were doing that? Who did you meet? How do you think it's preparing you for the world of work? It's making you think as well, because you're not at school now, you're at college, and this is where you start to become independent and actually think for yourself and put your own spin on things. So with some of my students, well, all of my students actually, we did a takeover of Band on the Wall, which is an iconic venue. You have the Cavern in Liverpool, and you have sort of different places around the country. Band on the Wall is one of our iconic venues, over 100 years old. And the actual logo is a logo of Dizzy Gillespie. And if you know your jazz, you know he's an absolute legend. And everyone in the lineup here are all students, probably doing a gig for the first time. This event, from conception, excuse me, right through to evaluation, was done as part of a project for the event production team. It was part of their marketing and business as well. And one of the team members who is on the call now and on the in the studio, Sam Nagler, he actually designed this particular poster. And we did lots of things surrounding that, which was, it went really, really well. It was an excellent event, and it's something that we'll be doing regularly. Walk for Women. So Walk for Women, I'm on the Manchester City Council steering group for International Women's Day. And I was tasked to do the Walk for Women Festival, which was fantastic to weave into the lesson. So it was something that was happening. It was real life. The picture in the middle you can see is the team having a proper boardroom meeting with our contact at Manchester Central Library. And that particular picture is connected to the risk assessment. They walked the walk because there was a walk, like a mile walk, and then a festival within the library. And they went through that, anything from looking at uneven ground to potential risks of people who have got a disability, and of course lost children and that kind of thing. So this is the real life. This is the real life kind of work that we do when we're actually doing the events and the event production. Alex, have you got anything to say about Walk for Women? Because you're on.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, Walk for Women was obviously one of the major events we did back in March, and as Carol said, there was a lot of kind of organisation in terms of risk assessment. So it kind of threw us in the deep end because we had to think of everything, and obviously with an event which is quite as big as Walk for Women, there was a lot to kind of organise. So in terms of getting stuck in and doing a real job and doing what you would do in the events industry, this was a great example. So it was really enjoyable to do.
Thank you. And our head of tech on the day was Daniel Mason. Dan, have you got anything to add in relation to the festival end of the Walk for Women?
Well, the festival end of the Walk for Women was very diverse. So we had things from full bands with drum kits, guitarists, bassists, full bands. But then we had poetry, we had creative writing, we had speakers. So it wasn't just a matter of, I'm going to run a music festival in the library. It was a matter of you have to account for everything that's going to be happening on the day, rather than just music. It was everything to do with events. It wasn't just one solid subject, which I thought was good for us to have to account for. Yeah,
and we were really pleased as well, because on the walk we sort of tipped to about 3,000 on the walk, and then in the library, filter capacity, I think we hit 500 at the peak of the audience, and it was a 4 hour festival, whereby we had stalls at one end and we had a stage at one end, and in between we had the audience. So the stalls were an eclectic mix, but that's a prime example of a key event where we get the students involved, and they all have their own roles and tasks. Thank you, guys. I'm going to call on you again, guys, because this is something that people think, events, but there's a pandemic and there are no events going on. That's not the end of the story. We're just not going to stop events. We just do things differently. And as Tony Wilson says, it's Manchester. We do things differently here. So who wants to kick off, one of the team, to talk about the event management during a global pandemic?
I mean, I can start if you want. So obviously this was a really different event, and obviously logistically doing an event during a pandemic was quite difficult. the kind of disadvantages of this was obviously we weren't all together to kind of do the event and also the planning for it. So it was all remotely. So myself, Dan, and Sam we designed all of the placeholders and all of the awards kind of designing for it. And then it was probably about 6 weeks of designing and planning, and then we finally went onto campus to put everything together, and the event was achieved with full social distancing, and it was also for the most part designed remotely. So it was quite different because it wasn't obviously on campus and we didn't have the resources, so we had to do it from our own homes. But that was quite good in a sense because we had to do it differently, and it was quite a new spin to our events.
Yeah, and the thing with something like this is that and you'll find this when you join us and you're doing the lessons early on. We do what is called a SWOT analysis and what we call a pest analysis. And to be fair, this is about what's going on. There is no one that could have predicted that this would have happened from March the 20th. There was no way we could have predicted that, but it's about paying attention to what else is going on and keeping in stride with the government guidelines and the World Health Organization guidelines to ensure that we could deliver the event. And it worked and it paid off. And the stream is still out there, and it's ACC Live. I think you can find it on, and you can find it if you go to the ACC, the Access Creative College website. You'll be able to find the event showcase, and you'll be able to find the award ceremony as well to see how that was done. And we had to sort of work in tandem as well with 6 other campuses around the country. Thank you, guys. So frequently asked questions. What will I do on the course? I think we've talked about that really. How is the course assessed? So it's coursework and it's assignments, and it's assessed throughout the years. You get assignments, you get a deadline, they're graded, and then they're put towards another grade, and they're actually graded throughout the year. And the qualification you'll get is a BTEC level 3. And like I said, that BTEC level 3 is 3 A levels and 168 UCAS points. That's very important if you need to go or you want to go to university. And how many days a week will you attend? Approximately 3 days a week. It depends. And like I said, if for whatever reason you've not actually got your maths or English, speak to us and we can work your timetable bespoke to you so that you ensure that you can bring your English and maths up to scratch. And then maybe it's a 4-day week or a 3.5-day week, just to ensure you get the lesson. So you bring your maths and English up to scratch and you can resit in November. So please join us. So apply to ACC. It takes minutes, create an account and apply, and we can help you with your application. There is a button there to say if you need any help, that we will help you with your application. Any questions you have, there's part of the form that can answer your questions as well. And then we go on to meet the event industry professionals. I'd like to, I'm not going to share screen. I'm going to actually shut down the screen in a second so you can see them properly. But this is just an introduction to them. So we have Ted Doan, who's a general manager of the Plaza Theatre Stockport, an iconic theatre in the centre of Stockport, which is part of Greater Manchester, built in 1933, I believe. Same year that King Kong came out, the original King Kong. And then we have Holly Gaffney, she's the events manager from Lloyds Banking Group. I think out of the 3 of them, Holly's the only one that did a degree event management. I think you got a first there in your degree, Holly. And finally, we've got Mandeep Kapari, event consultant, Zoom events and consultancy. And Mandeep does business consultancy as well, but also it's interesting to see the diversification. So he is an event consultant, but he has other strings to his bow. And one of the things that I really admire about Mandeep is he's an ambassador, business ambassador and mentor for the Prince's Trust. So virtual round of applause for Mandeep. Holly and Ted, and I am going to stop presenting. Can you all hear me?
Right. Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mandeep and Ted.
Hello there.
Hi. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to elaborate on your role, because I'm going to sort of do it in arrival order. Okay? So people will know who arrived first, who got the gold star and arrived first. And that'll be you, Mandeep.
That's great.
So I want to ask, can you talk about your current role?
At the moment, I do some freelance events organising, and wear the second hat, as Carol's mentioned, of business mentoring and coaching. I work up with a hub out in Colchester. As we all know, the events is a bit quiet at the moment, so it's just been a case of more working with events, people that I know, to try and get them back in spirit, mindset wise and business wise, really. So that's what I'm up to at the moment in a nutshell.
Brilliant. And Ted, describe your current role for the viewers.
Okay, well, I'm the general manager of the Plaza Super Cinema and Variety Theatre in Stockport. Almost got the year right, Carol. It's actually 32, so just 1 year out. But we're quite a special venue. We're the only one of its kind trading in the entire country, which was built as a cinema that could do theatre, at the cusp of cinema coming in. Over the years, we closed down in the 60s. We became a bingo hall, and then we really closed down. So we really, at one point, could have been bulldozed, could be a car park now. But we were saved. And over the last couple of decades, we've been here for 20 years now, we've turned the Plaza around. She now presents live production, so everything from pantomimes to concerts, tribute shows to children's shows. We do a lot of classic cinema, but we also do a lot of events. We do weddings, we do funerals, we do religious events, we do conferencing. Obviously, Carol, we've worked together on a number of events here, including one a year ago, almost the day.
Yes.
So pretty much now it's a huge sort of round robin bag, and it's nice because in our proper title, we're a variety theatre, and variety is now what keeps this amazing venue alive. Obviously, we're a little bit quiet at the moment, but we're managing the events that we've had to move: weddings, conferences, private parties. So yeah, it's a fabulous venue with lots and lots usually going on.
Brilliant. Okay. Same to you. Your current role, Holly.
Yeah, I just wanted to say on the back of that I went to a really great IOD event at the Stockport Plaza and had a great time there. And I remember there was like the piano playing, lots of stuff going on. So yeah, I just wanted to say on the back of that, I've been to a couple of events that have been really good. So I work as the National Event Development Manager for Lloyds Banking Group. So we're actually quite busy because we've been turning everything that was live virtual at the moment. So I work across Lloyds Bank, Bank of Scotland and Halifax. We've got 4 live event locations, and that's just growing all the time at the minute. So we're still pressing on and planning for the new sites to go live for next year. But in the meantime, we've been turning everything virtual. So there's been lots of challenges along the way with that, but it's been a really great experience. And yeah, that's it really from me on that one.
Brilliant. And it's a twofold question, really. I want to know what your worst event is. It's an anecdotal, your worst event and your best event within the events industry, because of course this is an events and event production seminar. So basically I want to hear that from you. To give you a bit of time to think. It's a free for all. Who wants to go first? I picked on you before, but who wants to go first?
I'll go first, Carol. I don't mind. Yeah. I think it would be hard to pick an event because I actually really love all the different types of events that I've ever worked on, but I have worked across industry in lots of different areas, and I think probably the most challenging one that I found, to be honest with you, was organising weddings for several reasons. But I think the main reason why is because it's such a personal and emotional experience for people that obviously as time goes on and it gets closer to the date, I think it brings up a lot of emotions for people. And I think that was definitely sort of one of the harder things to manage. And I suppose people's perception sometimes of going into the event industry is things like wedding planning, but I think that should come with a bit of a warning sign on it as well, because there is so much to sort of deal with when you're dealing with that side of things. So that's probably, that's what I would say with that one.
Is that your worst one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, wedding planning. I always say I don't do weddings, and I've done 5.
Exactly.
Ted?
Well, I suppose I'm a bit the opposite there. The weddings for me, I love them because I get very passionate about weddings and what's going on. So absolutely love those. The worst I had was many years ago. So not at the Plaza, and it was a meal event which was planned, everything down to the menu, how we were staging it. The problem was I left it in the hands of somebody who thought they knew better, and in a way for them, I think it was their worst because it was a learning curve when it just crashed and burned. And I got called back an hour's drive to the venue where it was being hosted to basically walk in to carnage. And it was Valentine's Day, so it became known as the Valentine Night Massacre. This meal where everything had been organised, all the menu. They just decided to do their own thing on the day. But in a way, the flip side of that was we managed to claw it round back to being an amazing event where everyone was very happy because we basically stopped, restarted, began again with the original plans, and it did become a huge success. But I think for my colleagues at the time, afterwards, when we sort of sat down and went through why they had decided to do their own thing, this was the learning curve for them, that they would never do that again, stick to the plan and the organization. And as I know one of them still, and she does great events all over the country. And I think that was her moment to learn, stick to plan, don't go off piste.
Okay. Mandy?
Do you know what? I was sitting here trying to think of a worst event, but normally we end up saving an event at the end of the day, even when you do have a trauma.
We are hardy, aren't we?
Yeah, I think, and that's probably why during these days we've kept going as well during this pandemic times. Best events for me, I do a lot of weddings, and Indian weddings are smaller gatherings of about 500 people only, so they're always fun at some time. But I think the best event that I've ever done is I worked with children with leukemia. They used to do a party in Battersea Park for 6,000 children with a full funfair and theme set up, and I was involved with the barbecue side of things. So that was fantastic event. I always loved doing that event on a yearly basis. At the same breath, it was probably one of my worst ones because we had a stage where one of the supermarkets used to donate the food, and that never turned up until halfway through the day. So it was great fun trying to get the barbecue out and feeding all of these kids that were hungry with their families and etc. It was a free event for these, but that was an interesting experience. But it was fun. It was great fun always.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, from the course point of view, you saw the list that I put up before, and the list had, because we do marketing and we do marketing techniques and we do evaluation. And the three members of my cohort that are here will actually testament to the fact that I really bang the drum on research to make sure that they're not building an event on sand. Would you support that in relation to when you're planning? Because you've just touched on that, haven't you, Ted, about the whole planning side of things?
Absolutely. I mean, the big things for us, obviously, we do big shows, we do big events, there's a lot of people involved, but when it's especially something like a wedding or a funeral or a private party or anything, it's such a precious moment for those people. You don't get a second opportunity. So, for instance, with our weddings, we will have meeting after meeting. Some couples want lots of meetings. I always famously use the example of one of my brides who literally, she didn't want to think about her wedding until the week before, and we had to do the whole wedding, everything in 1 week, and she just threw the ideas in, but it is about, as a rule, planning, making sure it's perfect, and also making sure your team know every single minute detail. I mean, I'm a bit obsessive here, so it is down to who's holding what door open, who's standing where, what you're saying to, so it's every little bit. But it is all about, has to be planning, and then on the day, swan syndrome, glide along, and they don't see the paddling that's going on under the water.
For anyone who doesn't know what swan syndrome is, that's you see a swan gliding majestically on the boating lake or wherever, but their legs are going furiously underneath, and that is event planners, event production team. Things can happen whereby they're not working, because some of these young people that are listening and viewing now, they've got no idea of how that works. We're all veterans and seasoned. Even you, Holly, now. We're seasoned, so we know that it's that smile and the best foot forward, and put it just basically the whole thing to do with presentation, really. What about you, Holly?
Yeah, so a lot of what we do is based on research and insight. So we wouldn't actually be able to go forward with an event unless we were able to justify, obviously, internally the reasons why. So we do a lot of micro market analysis and looking at the local areas in which the event spaces are based to see what challenges people are facing and how we might be able to design and develop free events for that community that will help them. So we do a variety of things. We run a lot of business events and workshops for startups, especially in Manchester. We have one of the highest startup rates, but we also have one of the highest failure rates as well. So we do a lot of research and work with focus groups around what might actually help and how we can design and deliver events to support that. Specifically in Manchester, that's probably one of our biggest areas for events. And Carol and I, we run a Women Like Us network as well. So there's a lot of research gone into what's going on with gender equality across Manchester. And Carol, you do a lot of work in that. So we've sort of developed our own network amongst us, haven't we, as well?
Yeah, that's doing really well. And that's the thing, because that leads on to my next thing, is collaboration and the team that you put around you. So Mandeep, you're an event consultant. So basically you are an event butterfly. You flip from one thing to the other and your team are never the same, or are they? Enlighten us on that world.
I think your key, there's a few suppliers that you will use on a regular basis, but the majority of the time with venues, they all vary to the client, what people actually want, and what their budget is at the end of the day. So you do have to adapt very fast and quickly. And that goes with right down to the basics of, you might think, okay, you've got certain suppliers for photographers or DJs or camera or food people that you might work. But again, it always, because I'm dealing with more the weddings or personal rather than the corporate side of things, the social side of things, it's a case of, it always comes down to budget, and you've got to try and fit within their budget. Not like these TV house development programs where you always go £5,000 over budget. You have to keep under with them.
Yeah, that budgeting is key. And I'm giving a slide glance to Holly. For my year twos, we're going to do some really tight budgeting, and I might be pulling you in. You're an event person in a bank. You're ideal to come in and guest speak and talk and we'll set a guest lesson. They're quivering now in their boots for budgeting. But you're right, Mandeep, budgeting is key. How do you manage, and more Ted and Mandeep than Holly, but how do you manage the emotion of a client? So if it is to do with a personal thing, weddings, funerals, I've done 3 funerals, wedding, funerals, christenings, or whatever the religious event is, let's say, how do you manage the emotional side of things, the emotional client?
Well, I mean, you get into this business because you are personable, and obviously you have empathy with people. So, for instance, on the weddings at the moment, prime example, we have quite a lot of weddings, all of which have had to be postponed. And of course, some people have just been very much, oh, well, that's the way it is. Others, this has been quite a traumatic time for them, but you are you become part of that relationship. To quote a very famous royal, you become the third person in that relationship for a while, because you are absolutely working alongside the grooms, the brides, whatever sort of format the wedding couple is, and you walk through it. So I mean, one of our lovely couples still had sort of a bit like this, like a Zoom meeting on the day, like a ceremony, and I was invited, which was lovely. So we're part of that, and then we carry on all the way through. And you're always there as the buffer zone, the confidant. We have weddings where sometimes the groom might have a surprise for his forthcoming partner, and something they want to do, and you have to control that and manage that. You just basically you become part of that family for that period. And what's lovely here is that subsequently now a lot of our couples will keep coming back for their 1st anniversary, 5th anniversary, 10th anniversary. If they have children, and it's a beautiful relationship that you're part of that amazing day in their lives for the rest of your lives, really, in those sort of events. Absolutely.
Ooh. Okay, Mandeep.
I think Ted's hit the nail on the head. Actually, you do just become part of the family with them and make sure that it is their big day at the end of the day, or sad day, or whatever day it is their day. So you've got to be part of it, work with them rather than against them. And make them feel that you are there for them. And at the same time, when you might be upset, be that show person and just smile. Like as you were saying earlier, it's the old Swan effect of they should never know when anything goes wrong.
No.
Yeah? And even if you need to shout at your staff, you take them in the back and just tell them afterwards. There's no point in doing things there and then. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring Alex in, because this is not a personal. It is emotional, but it's not. It's not a wedding. So, Alex, do you remember when we did the takeover for Band on the Wall?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So Alex's role in that, because of course with all the class and the team and everything. So Dan, who you can see, Dan was tech man, weren't you? In the tech box. Yeah. And Alex was stage manager, stroke stage caller, stroke social media chappy.
Yeah.
Multiple hats. What was the emotional? There was lots. It was higher. What was the emotional thing that happened there? Just share with us.
So, just for a bit of context, we're quite a small team as it is, and we're very close. So we started off with 8 people on the for this event, and unfortunately, with a few days to go, a lot of circumstances happened, which meant that people couldn't attend. So I think we ended up going down to 5 people. So I think 2 or 3 days before the event, there was a huge reshuffle that I kind of had to coordinate in terms of roles, which meant that a lot of people were doing roles either completely different and out of their comfort zone to what they originally anticipated, or they were okay with it, but they were taking on more responsibility. So there was this massive reshuffle, and people were kind of doubling up on roles.
You remember where I was?
What was that? Sorry.
Do you remember where I was? Because it was supposed to roll forward, and I get there when it just about started.
If I remember correctly, you were in Liverpool, weren't you?
Yes. So the new mayor of Liverpool's event, I was doing that. And I'm getting these texts, and then going, "Hi, welcome, new mayor of Liverpool. Gotta go."
Yeah. So on the day as well, it was quite chaotic because we'd all planned to do specific roles. So obviously, I mean, we're a very close team as it is. So we were able to communicate effectively, but this is the kind of thing that I think is prevalent in the event industry, is that not everything goes to plan, and kind of troubleshooting and working around that is a skill that you need to learn. So it was good in the end, but at the time it was quite bad in terms of panicking. But it was a great event in the end, and I'm very impressed with how it went. So
it did, and what we had to manage was the nerves of the performers.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Lucky guitars going missing. Can't go on, I've not got my lucky guitar. So, that kind of thing. although that emotional stuff, and Ted, you'll know this with some of the performances you have at the Plaza, people have a ritual, don't they, if they're going to perform. So if they haven't got I haven't got my pink plectrum or whatever it is, then they won't, and you have to appease them, and it'll be fine, you'll be fine. It's all about you, your talent, and get them on there. And people in the audience had a fantastic time. The evaluation worked really well. But like Alex said, and can I just say, for my cohort of what we call EP31s, their arc and their learning journey has come on tenfold. From September to bang March, hitting a pandemic, to where they are now, they have actually grown substantially. So, and I'm really proud of them. And anybody who joins us, I'll be extremely proud of them as well. I want to sort of ask you, and I think because Holly's not said anything at the moment, but I want to know what made you choose event. And guys, Ted and Mandeep, think about this. What made you choose events? What was the journey that brought you to the door of events? Holly?
I think I've always kind of had it in me, like where either I've been at an event and I've had that kind of little fiery feeling, thinking I absolutely love the atmosphere, I love being around people. And then also just, so when I was 12, I actually set up a dance and theatre school with my cousins. They were obviously a bit older than me, and so we would put on all of the shows and the different performances and things throughout the year. My dad's a spoken word performance poet, so he would run certain nights and I would get involved in that and do the sort of the marketing and that kind of thing.
Did not know that.
Yeah, so that was when I was only really young at that point, and I was going to go study something else. And I went to a different college, and I actually wanted to be a clinical psychologist because I was also very interested in helping people. And then I kind of just had it within me where I kind of wanted to go down a bit more of a business route, and I loved events. But I think my family were kind of a bit like, well, what are you going to do if you go study events? Like, where's this going to lead to? And, what jobs are out there? And I think there's very specific viewpoints. And I think there's still a bit of maybe prejudice. And I think it's still, as an industry, a bit undervalued as well, considering the contribution it makes for the economy. So I was very determined. I was like, I'm going to go and study it. And I honestly, hand on heart, would say it's one of the best things that I did. So I went to Man Met to do my degree there. And obviously throughout that, you learn all of the theoretical underpinning behind what goes on in the industry. So I think things like learning about sustainability, if you look where the industry's got to since I studied, I think that was a really important part of it. We did all the finance and budgeting and that kind of thing as well. But then obviously you have the practical element of it too. So we had to design live events and put them on. And I think the whole experience of that is exactly what's got me to sort of where I am now. So from that, I did actually go and have a few job interviews, and a couple of jobs I didn't get, and I was really disappointed. And I think at that point when you sort of graduate, you can take that really personally. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm just going to be my authentic self, use all my experience. I mean, throughout uni, I got involved in loads of different projects, music festivals, food festivals, things across the city. So I had a lot of contacts as well. And there was a job at Lloyds Bank, and I thought, this is really unusual. I don't really understand what the bank's doing in terms of this. So I kind of threw myself in at the deep end with that interview, but I just thought, I'll go in. I know what my experience is. And what they wanted was, they were building the first flagship in the UK. So they were designing an event space and wanted to bring somebody external with experience and contacts in the area to be able to start to do things a bit differently within there. And so that's kind of where I suppose the corporate side of things started for me. And from there, we grew across the 3 brands, and now we're obviously working nationally across different sites. So yeah, that was kind of my journey.
And which sites, share with people which sites you have.
So we've got Lloyd's in Manchester, which is where Carol and I met over a mocha to start doing some events work together.
Yeah, I'm a cheap date.
And then we launched under the Halifax brand in London on Oxford Street. So we've got a big event site there that we do lots of different things around mental health, lifestyle, interior design, all sorts of things like that. We then launched a Bank of Scotland flagship up in Glasgow. So we do a lot of business events there. And then we have launched another home and lifestyle site in London, and we will be going into Edinburgh next, I believe, and another site in London. And then I'm not sure where we're taking it from there, but I think it will keep expanding out across the UK from there.
And this that is a good flow and a good thread of how you can work in events, and there's different areas, because there are lots of corporate organizations out there that's kind of like a template really that they're looking at and thinking, you know, I know a very large recruitment agency have an events department with about 3 in the events team, and that works really well. You know, and sort of accountancy, solicitors firms, they have their own events team in there, and there's internship opportunities and that kind of thing. And that's really good, because people realize that events are not, I'm going to do a party, right? Okay, off we go. There is proper strategizing in there. There's, like we say, the budgeting, the planning, and so on. And that is transferable skills.
And I think a lot of organisations now recognise that you need to be building a human connection with people if you want them to connect with your brand. And so that's why I think a lot of the brands are doing it differently. And obviously the high streets, footfall's falling, that kind of thing. So how can you drive people back into the city centres and into the main business districts and that kind of thing too? And I think events is obviously one of the key ways of doing it.
And the benefit of the online, let's flip it with the whole pandemic thing and doing the online event, is that when I hosted the June Women Like Us event, your opposite partners in Glasgow and in London and in Leeds or whatever, they hopped on. They could come on and see what we do there. And now we're talking collaboration for all of us together to do something early next year. So that works quite well in that way as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the, obviously for the whole industry, we've got to start to do things twofold, even when we do go back to live. I mean, I think as an industry, we know that there's going to be a lot of changes to the way things are done, but also that we need to be able to provide the online experience alongside the live experience now as well. So I think as much as I really miss being around people and the energy in the room and that kind of thing as well, I think that I have seen a massive benefit of running things virtually and being able to connect with a lot more people at once as well. And it just makes it easier because you can fit your life around a virtual event a lot more easily than having to, you know, you're not accounting for all the travel time and the various other elements that are involved when it's a live event. So it definitely brings about its benefits as well.
Yeah. And Mandeep, what brought you to the door of events? To worship at events.
To worship you, did you say?
When you worship me, I don't know.
I sort of fell into events, I'd say, because my background was I used to have restaurants, and from there I shifted into doing some outside catering. More social side of things again, a couple of corporate events. On the social basis, I found that during the catering side of things, there were 1 or 2 events I went to, they were being let down by their marquee hire people. So I then had this great idea, I'll go and buy some marquees to hire out some marquees. So I started to organise a package of the catering, the marquees. Then they started asking me about DJs, and I just sort of fell into it, I'd say.
Yeah.
So it's quite something that happened without actually really being planned to happen. But I've enjoyed that journey a lot more and ended up more in the event side of things. But alongside with that, I ended up organising a couple of dinner and dances over the years as well, just as fundraising charity events every year or every 2 years. I would do a charity event of some kind myself.
I can see the organic thread there, though. You know, like say with the restaurants, because you know, quite a lot of events, food is involved.
Yeah,
and I can see that.
And it was, for me, it was a nice learning curve as well, because now when I do an event, having been on the other side of things and been there with the catering side of things, I know the stresses they go through. So I'm probably a lot more accommodating to understand. And it's easier to solve problems as well, because when they will come to you and say, oh, we can't do it because of this space and this space, and you can work with them a lot easier and quicker as a result of that. So yeah, it's something I fell into, but it's been great fun.
Yeah, fantastic. And Ted?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was at school, I had no intention of coming into this business at all. It never even crossed my mind. Loved theatre, but never came into it. And I was actually 15. I lied about my age. And I got a job as an usher in a local theatre. And I just stayed and loved it. And as the years went by, I decided that...
You did the BTEC though, didn't you?
Oh, I did the BTEC, yeah. So eventually I thought to myself, well, I really should do something else and get more education. I went and did a BTEC. And that was phenomenal. And that actually secured me a place. It was a polytechnic at the time. It's a university now, but that was to go to Huddersfield. So I was all set to go. And this big new company had taken over the theatre I was working in. And at my leaving party, they said, look, we don't think you should leave. We want you to be the assistant manager. Will you start on Monday? So I was like, oh, what do I do? So I did what all upwardly mobile professionals do. I rang my mum and just said, what shall I do? And she said, well, what do you want to be? And I said, well, actually, I think I want to be a theatre manager. And so that was it. So I took the job, worked with that company for years. They eventually got bought out by Clear Channel, huge company. And I was running a chain of theatres, my last job with them. But I really took that decision that I want to step back and actually physically, hands-on, run a venue. And this place came up, the Plaza, and I came here. And at that point, we were probably doing a couple of shows a week, if that. It wasn't doing hugely well initially, but they'd saved this fabulous venue. There was the passion there. They needed a general manager, so I was their first one. And we started with shows. We then looked at the cinema. We have concerts, and over the years it grew. And of course, people started asking, even staff that worked here, "Oh, can I get married there?" Yes. So, I mean, our mantra, it always is, it is just that word, yes, that, yep, we can do it. So we started the weddings, we started the events, we started doing conferencing. We've got the auditorium, we've got the cafe lounge. So it can be a small, intimate event like a dinner party, or it can be a conference for big retailers. And we have some big corporates that every single year they do their conferences here now. And we make it work in a building that has got the constraints of a 1932 old, super cinema variety theatre, but we can make anything work, and it does, and it all works perfectly. So,
well, can I just say that that you have this strange person, me. I've got a show. Can I bring it? And then we test it in the green room, in the smaller area. So we test it from an audience perspective. And then when we bring it back the following year, we go, right, okay, big auditorium in the big room, which is fantastic. And that's really good because I'll come with some bizarre idea. I'll come with a bizarre idea and then,
And I think that's the thing. It's because when someone like you comes along with that passion for ideas and thoughts, and it's like, okay, let's give it a go. We're not part of a corporate. We can be very flexible as long as it wipes its nose, and we're not losing on an event. So that's the financial side of it. But also, it's looking at the bigger picture of how is this going to help us develop our audience base? People who've got links, that emotional link to the venue. Because when that happens, I mean, the amount of times we might host one of your events, and right in the middle of it, someone might come up and say, oh, actually, it's my mum's 80th birthday. Can you do some sort of party? And it's like, absolutely, or a kid's party or whatever. So it's that, cradle to grave, basically, eventing that we can do.
Well, we've come to the end of our seminar and meet our industry professionals. That was a lovely chat. And can I come back to each of you for another time for, let's say, another session or something? Can I do that? Because I can always weave it into the lessons and, sort of a bit more intimate with some of the class members so they can talk to you and ask you questions. Have we got any questions, chaps? Alex, Daniel, Sam?
I think they're being a bit shy, to be honest.
Dan? Have you seen any? Well, this is recorded.
No, I think they've covered everything perfect, to be honest. Every question you've asked has been answered to what we expect.
That's brilliant, because this is being recorded and then students can come back and listen to it. And it's not just event students as well. It's the performance and the media, the music and the media students can come back and listen to this again. So thank you so much, Mandy, Teddy, and Holly. Round of applause. And thank you, Sam, back at the studio on campus. Sam Nagler, thank you. Oh, he's twiddling knobs and doing whatever. And Daniel and Alex, my co-pilots and contributors, thank you guys for joining us. It's been fantastic. My name is Caroline Whitehead. And if you liked it, yes, it was me. And if you didn't like it, it was Oprah Winfrey. Bye.